Previously,
When we
on
talk
the
about
youth leadership
alternative
debate,
financing of public institutions, we're talking about unconventional means need to pay fact-finding visits to industry to find out their structures and problems.
As far as a child, I understand money is not the solution to the problems facing Nigerian university, rather market.
Subsection 1 of that constitution does not give access.
University problems in Nigeria is just like more economic.
the Youth Leadership Debate is a program that provides support and strategically harnesses voices of young people for national development. The program is organized in view of Nigeria's 2023 general elections, where young people are expected to advocate for good leadership from the point of knowledge and collectively shape the vision of Nigeria through dialogue. The Youth Leadership Debate is an initiative of the Nigeria Youth Futures Fund, NYFF, implemented by Leap Africa and funded by the MacArthur Foundation and the Ford Foundation. Now, on this episode, we continue our semi-final series where contestants from the University of Benin and those from the University of Ibadan come face-to-face with each other. Going by their performance in the competition so far, this makes for a tantalizing matchup. Regional governance, a way forward for national development in Nigeria, is the topic before them. A region in a country is the largest geographical area into which the country may be divided for political or administrative purposes. A regional government usually has the fiscal authority to raise taxes within this territory and the ability to spend some of its income according to its own policies and appoint or elect its own officers. Nigeria's government, after it gained independence from British colonial rule, was based on a federal system. The period between 1st October 1960 and 15 January 1966, when the first military coup d'etat took place, is also generally referred to as the First Republic. The First Republic of Nigeria was ruled by different leaders representing their regions as premiers in a federation during this period. Leaders include Ahmadu Bello, Northern Nigeria, 1959 to 1966, Obafemi Awolowo, Western Nigeria, 1959 to 1960, Samuel Akintola, Western Nigeria, 1960 to 1966, Michael Okpara, Eastern Nigeria, 1960 to 1966, and Dennis Usadibi, Mid-Western Nigeria, 1964 to 1966. After the first coup and under the short-lived military government of Agui Ironsi, Nigeria was reorganized under a central government. A counter-coup which resulted in Agui Ironsi's deposition and assassination led to the country's reorganization as a federal country, with 3 of the regions being divided into newer entities and all first-level subdivisions being renamed as states. A few more coups and counter-coups with various military heads of states and a civil war later, Nigeria returned to a democratic system of government and with a centralized system of government in 1979. Successive military and civilian administrations have since maintained the centralized system and with more states created. The University of Benin will argue in favor of regional governance, while the University of Ibadan will give their submissions in opposition. Let's go over now to the debate floor where Ijoma Kalu, Special Projects Officer at Leap Africa, reads out the rules and gives the podium to the first speaker from Uniben.
I would like to remind the debaters that the first speaker has 5 minutes to make their argument, and the second speaker have 3 minutes to support that argument, and finally they will be given 1 minute each. That is, the first speakers or any of the speakers of their choosing will be given 1 minute to crystallize their points and to make any rebuttals.
Michelle, the lead speaker from Uniben, starts off first by going down memory lane on political downtimes in the nation's history to set the background for her argument.
Is it not sad to realize that the major eruption of instability in Nigeria over the years have always been as a result of inter-regional crisis? Let me give you examples. The military rule of 1966, the Civil War of 1967 to 1970, the presidential The annulment of the presidential election of the June 12, 1993, which followed a political crisis, and also the Sharia law crisis of the early 2000s. Now, all of this shows there has been constant friction between the regions of Nigeria, which has led to insecurity. Now, insecurity in terms of economic development and social development in the decline, which is thereby leading to national development decrease.
To give some strength to her argument, Michelle goes on to define some key terms of regional government, after which she went to state why Nigeria should look in the direction of the system.
What is regional governance? And what is national development? According to UNESCO Institute for Statistics, regional governance means, and I quote, the largest geographical area into which the country as a whole may be divided for political or administrative purposes, such as a state, province, department, or region. What this means is that these regions are allowed to control the resources within their region for the purposes of revenue. And then they are also allowed to give a certain amount back to the central government. Going to what is national development? According to United Nations Decade Reports, national development is simply growth plus change. And this is where the government sets objectives for the purpose of national development and then puts systems in place for national development.
In conclusion, Michelle went on to cite examples of countries that practice a regional system of government whose citizens are greatly impacted.
Now, countries such as Norway, Spain, and Italy have a Human Development Index of over 0.9 on a scale of 1, in comparison to Nigeria, which has a 0.539. Now, these countries that I have mentioned all operate a system of regional governance. So regional governance, we can say, can improve national development by improving human development.
At this point, the moderator calls on the lead speaker from University of Ibadan to give his counter-arguments.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you so much for your arguments. I'd like to call on the first speaker from the University of Ibadan.
The lead speaker from University of Ibadan, in opposition to the topic, argues that Nigeria has long passed the era of regional government. He goes on to argue that regional government goes against the practices that corroborates unity and national development, especially when compared to international standards.
National development, according to the United Nations General Assembly Declaration, is a comprehensive economic, social, cultural, and political process which aims at the constant improvement of the well-being of the entire population. Ladies and gentlemen, how we hope to let regionalism be the order of the day and still achieve national development is at the very least a fool's errand. And here's why. Regional governance promotes national disunity. According to the UN, peaceful coexistence is necessary for national development. However, in a country where we advocate for unity, tolerance, and peace amongst ourselves to achieve national development, the proposition is advocating the same conditions that pushed us into the civil war between 1967 and 1970. According to a paper titled The Nigerian Civil War, a Revolution, published in the African Journal of Political Science and International Relations, some of the major factors which contributed to the origin of the civil war include the structural imbalance of the federation, 2, the incessant killings of Igbos living in the north, and 3, the asymmetrical distribution of powers between the various ethnic and geopolitical groups.
Speaking further, Finn argues that a centralized system of government is a more inclusive system that protects minority groups from marginalization.
States are created according to need, to accommodate the different ethnic groups, allowing them to interact directly with a central power not subject to tribal influence. They are better protected that way. Marginalization in whatever form is immoral, and no amount of English or legal jargon will change what it is: sheer wickedness. Regional governance will lead to economic marginalization. Judges. Regional governance means that each region has total control over its resources. That is handing a lot of power to regions. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Do you on this ground think it's wise to hand over the lifeblood of the nation, which is our economy, be it the oil, mining or agriculture, to tribesmen, leaders who only care about their people and not about the growth of the nation? People like Adamu Galba, who according to the Vanguard told Niger Delta to keep their oil, whilst they keep their food and see who starves first. Their opponents. You have chosen to tell barefaced lies and false declarations of a one Nigeria when all you want is absolute control over resources, damning the rest of the nation. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, in a centralized government as we have, we lose nothing but our economic chains. We enjoy unity and economic independence. But in a regional government, we will lose all in exchange for mutually assured destruction. Winston Churchill said, those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Dear judges, for the sake of the lives lost, for the sake of the blood shed, for the sake of the years spent learning this bitter lesson once and for all, regional governance is not and can never be the way forward for national development. Thank you.
It's time now for the second speakers. And here is Victory from Uniben, who provides supporting arguments for her lead speaker. Now, Victory moves slightly away from the spectrum of governance and dwells a bit more on issues of tolerance and coexistence amongst the various groups of Nigeria. She goes back to where it all started.
It is against the liberty of humanity to try to force people who find it difficult to coexist. I mean, if we were forced to be standing here in this debate competition, even with all expenses paid, many of us will not even be here. And even those who actually make it here, we do everything we are doing with a lackadaisical attitude. It is in light of this distinguished panel of judges that I am humbly appealing that you trash the points of my opponent in the bin, because it is a clandestine approach to trample upon human liberty. And if this is allowed to flourish, there will be tyranny in the end. Mark Solium, who is a renowned Nigerian historian, said, the British entry into Nigeria, or just as the British entry into Nigeria was for economic reasons, so also the amalgamation was for economic reasons. That means that Nigerians themselves did not give any consent or any voluntary decision to be united. This brings me to my next point. Forcing people to coexist together will increase intolerance among them. Take, for instance, in October 2000, there was the Lagos-Kano mayhem that led to massive killings in both regions. And you may ask me, why did this happen? The Encyclopedia of Global Justice said it happened because a Hausa man's use of a toilet. And I do not say this to humor you. I only say this to let you see how religious intolerance and how you're forcing people to coexist can make little issues, minor issues that could have been trivialized, burst into major crisis. Now, bring me to my last point. You cannot force people who have actual cultural values to come under one law, because even a social contract gives opportunities for moral acceptability. So a law has to fit the particular region's cultural values.
Then came the second speaker from the University of Ibadan, who also decides to go beyond the spectrum of facts and figures to chip in a bit of a philosophical perspective to the debate.
Ladies and gentlemen, when you break a problem into multiple pieces in a bid to solve it, without a clear plan on how to do it, you do not have lesser problems. What you have multiple problems and no solution. Today's problem is whether the division of the nation is the way forward for our development, national development. The proposition has built their agenda on ifs, buts, and maybes. Now listen to facts, logic, and common sense. They have suggested that devolution of powers to major ethnic groups, just like the First Republic, is the major reason why development is promoted. I will remind them that Nigeria has over 250 ethnic groups, and handing power only to the major ethnic groups in Nigeria will only cause more harm than good. According to an International Peace Institute analysis, the First Republic reflected the cultural, political, and economic differences among the three largest ethnic groups in the country at that time, which dominated the northern, western, and eastern regions. This arrangement put the fate of the country in the hands of three major ethnic groups, leaving the minorities to cheer them on the sidelines. In 1967, General Gowon replaced these regions with 12 states in order to appease the minorities. Albert Einstein said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. What my opponents are simply suggesting is that we split into 3 major ethnic regions again.
It will be interesting to hear the judges' comments, but before then, the one speaker, each from both sides, have one more chance to drive home the team's points.
We would need to revisit the 1963 Constitution, which expressly states that Nigeria has 3 regions, then later 4, and tries to bring in these regions into the Constitution. Secondly, in a regional governance, you are able to harness your resources, and then we say that you can use 70% of your resources to develop your region for economic growth, education, increase employment opportunities, and then give 30% to the central government, which can then be used to satisfy any other region that is lacking in any sense. Now, the Nigeria we want, you made mention of my costume. Yes, the Nigeria we want is one whereby I can be proud of my ethnic identity, and yet I still remain one Nigeria. I don't have to fight over minor issues that could be trivialized. Like Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie said, I was first Igbo before I was Nigerian. So I can proudly say I was first Hausa before I was Nigerian, or I was first Fulani before I was Nigerian. And my speaker here can say I was first Yoruba before I was Nigerian, and still we will be united and we will live together in peaceful coexistence. This is what regional governance gives to us.
Are you tired of feeling like you're not making a difference in your community? Do you want to take action and create a better future for yourself and others? The Leap Africa's advocacy and moral courage courses can help you do just that. Our free advocacy course will guide you on how to participate in critical issues and how you can make a difference, while the e-integrity course on moral courage will equip you with the tools to address corrupt practices within your community. Use coupon code LEAP@20 to access e-integrity at a 30% discount. With our courses, you'll gain the skills and knowledge you need to be a force for positive change. Sign up at learn.leapafrica.org and start your journey towards making a difference today.
Finally, it's time to hear what the judges have to say, and Ijeoma Kalu takes us through.
Thank you. I remain Ijeoma Kalu, your host for today, and we've come to take the remarks from the judges for the second round of the Youth Leadership Debate Competition. We had the University of Ibadan and the University of Benin debate the motion that regional governance is the solution to national development in Nigeria. So over to you, judges. Ijeoma, what did you think about that round of debates?
First of all, I would like to give it to them. I would like to acknowledge the fact that the topic is very interesting and it speaks to what we're experiencing at the moment. And I could say that the debaters, they were in tune with what they wanted to speak on. They understood the concept of their debates, of their topic, and their delivery style was there. So I could see one of them talking about why we need to do this and why we don't need to do this. And you could see the comparative analysis that they were using to buttress their points. So I give it to them that they understood what they were supposed to do and they delivered on it.
Thank you so much, Ijeoma. OJ.
I think the ability for me, for both the ladies from UniBen and the guys from University of Ibadan was yes, they were able to match out their points quite clearly. They were able to, take us back and cite the context of Nigerian context where we've coming from and where we are presently, and also profess some possibilities in terms of the reasons why we either stick with what we have presently and ways to tweak it, or also someone else talked about even change. Change is a constant thing, also possibility of great potential. Both of them did a great job, and yeah.
Thank you so much, Anto.
Definitely, we're in a debate now. We're in a debate now, so I definitely love that, and I think it's very good how they were actually able to rebuke each of their points. It wasn't just making points that were opposing, but actually opposing the point that was made by the team, which is very important. You can practice all you want, but we need to see the debate actually working. So I think they did a really good job.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anto. Thank you, judges. I like to say that for me, it's the fact that after every point that they make recommendations. It's very important. Like, you're not just here to just go back and forth and debate. You actually are telling us, okay, if not this, then what? So it's very important. And I hope that we have authority figures who are listening to this and thinking about the future that we want for Nigeria.
There was time also for a little message from the project lead, Nigeria Youth Futures Fund, NYFF, Mr. Okpe.
I have with me today Mr. Okpe Orinyowo, who is the project lead for the NYFF. Okpe will be telling us a lot of other things that the NYFF is about, apart from the youth leadership debates. So please come with me as we listen to Okpe.
Right. Thank you, Ijoma.
Just to speak briefly on Nigerian Futures Fund. As you might already be aware, it's a collaborative project of Leap Africa, Makato Foundation, and Ford Foundation to strengthen and support youth, young people in Nigeria for youth leadership, for activism and social change through inclusive resourcing and outcome-driven policy development that will enable young Nigerians contribute to national development. The debate that you've been watching right now is the component of the Youth Leadership Development Fund, component of the project. Now, other aspects of the project still geared towards strengthening the Nigerian ecosystem. It's a national visioning exercise. In the coming weeks, we'll be going across the country, talking to Nigerians from the 6 geopolitical regions, for them to also agree for the very first time on what is the kind of Nigeria we would like to see. Similar to the confab that happened in 2014 under the Jonathan era. But this time around, complete six. What is the Nigeria that we want? Can we have a consensus to say that these are the key bullet points? These are the 7 issues that are critical to Nigeria's demography. And this document is then going to serve as an advocacy document going into the 2023 elections, as well as for onward streaming into the Nigeria agenda 2015.
On the next episode of the program, we will bring you the remaining semi-final encounter between Ahmadu Bello University and University of Ilorin. 2 teams will move closer to getting the 1.5 million naira top prize with some other juicy benefits. But who are the 2 teams? More interestingly, they will get the opportunity to do it on one of the biggest stages of public discourse in Nigeria, the platform. The second-placed team will not leave empty-handed. They will be given 1 million naira with other benefits, and the third-placed team also gets 600,000 naira with other benefits included. The Youth Leadership Debate is an initiative of the Nigeria Youth Futures Fund, NYFF, implemented by Leap Africa and funded by the MacArthur Foundation and the Ford Foundation. If you'd like to know more about their operations, kindly visit their website on www.leapafrica.org.